Hi, this is Eric Saunders with the Youth Football Coach's Handbook, and we are moving into our game management chapter. And so we're going to take a little bit of time today and discuss some of the habits and techniques that you're going to want to think about when it gets ready to be game day. There's a lot that goes into it, and certainly there's a few things that you don't want to be having to do and adjust to on the fly. You'd rather be prepared for. So we're going to jump right in and just quickly tell you what all the chapters are going to be. So in this segment, we've got preparation and working with play cards, wrist cards, fanny packs, and ways to get your plays in. We're going to discuss some advice on getting all of your players to the game on time, as that certainly can be a very nerve-wracking thing, and there's a few tips to help you get there. Pre-game routines, what you should do and what you might want to avoid during a game for warm-up, for your plays, for reads, hitting, and scouting the other team. A couple of tips on how to choose captains and what to think about there. Maybe some topics for pregame speeches, how long they should be, things of that nature. Game themes, and specifically what we do is we have a little game theme each week where we might have a fight or a Christmas theme or a scavenger hunt. We try to get the guys to focus in on some message that's kind of familiar to them based on those things. Where to position yourself during the game on the sidelines and what to look for. That's kind of, you're not in youth football, at least in Pop Warner, you're not supposed to have scouts, so this is kind of an interesting topic here. And then play calling, charting your adjustments, interacting with referees, how to deal with a game if you're winning it big or if you're losing it big, and really what type of mode you might go into if you're in a tight game. So, and then wrapping it up and making a post-game speech and some things that we do to finish up our game and put a bow on it. So we're going to go ahead and start first with our preparation. And the first thing we're going to talk about is our game management sheets. And our game management sheet that we use, and I'm just going to click right over, and this is a spreadsheet that is on the website that you have access to. And it's very printable, so if you go up in here and go to print and print preview, it prints out as a pretty nice looking card there, and it's one of these jobs that you might want to laminate and keep in your pocket as you're working the game. So, but first off, there's a place for your plays, so you can load them all right in there, and obviously you can have as many as you want. If you're coaching youth football, you can see I've got about 16 or 17 plays here, and a couple of those, one of them's a no play, so one of them's a punt, which we don't really ever do the quick kick to very much. So for the most part, you see I've got about 10 or 12 plays that I really are my go-to plays. So in each week we might have the play du jour, but so you got a place to list out your plays, and then over on the side we have kind of a box that I use to quantify whether or not I want to use this play. It's more than 10 yards, it's between 5 and 10 yards, it's less than 5 yards, it's third down, or it's a conversion play, like a 2 or 1 point conversion depending on your league. And I just put a green or red in there, and I just, there are times that I know that I want to stay away from a counter. I don't like to use a counter on a third or a conversion. Any short distance situation when you go with a counter or a cross play, if there's a high chance of a blitz, you probably don't want to counter. You want to sweep or try to get outside, get away from that stuff that's coming through the middle. But if there's more blockers in the middle, more defenders right in the middle of the line, you don't have as good of a chance to run across. So I just kind of take those types of things into consideration, and I just make my best guess. And a lot of times, it's not a perfect science, and I don't always use it, but what it really does is if you're in the middle of a game and you got to call a play, so you got to have some mechanism that works for you to help you get the play call. So this is my little very rudimentary system. Just say the play's over. I was expecting to have just gotten 4 or 5 yards on my last play, and we fumbled the snap. And now instead of third down and 2, I've got third down and 9 or 10 or whatever I've got. And so the play that was going to be my build on play, or my I go at plays in succession a lot of times. That play's gone now. I was going to run a dive next, or I was going to do some different type of play that I didn't really need to get 8 yards with. So now I have a way to come back in here and say, okay, new deal, not what we expected, something different, get my play called without kind of getting a little rattled. Sometimes you're standing on the sidelines, something doesn't go your way. You're the coach. You need to have things together. So you don't want to be sitting there trying to figure out, call a timeout because you need to think about what play you want. You don't want to waste your timeouts just to make a decision if you could have had a system to make that decision. So that's what we put right there. Over here, I put in all of my rosters. So all my little depth charts that I got. So I have first half on offense, and I throw down all their names. I have our second half in Pop Warner. You can have kind of a all-star lineup to some degree, or you don't have to play the guys both ways in the second half, so you can get a little more liberal with your lineup. And I do keep a lineup over there. I don't always use this lineup. If we're winning big or if we're losing big, I don't use that. But if it's a tight game and I need to do a little tinkering, I have my tinkering lineup. And then I have my blowout lineup, which is, my younger guys. A lot of times, if we're crushing them or if we are being defeated handily, shall we say, I have a lineup of guys that I want to see. And a lot of times what happens, I take all my backs and some of my better stud players, if you will, and I start trying to move them into the line. And it's kind of funny because they're really not that great of blockers, as good as they are running the ball sometimes. But they don't know the assignments is a real problem. But I try to get my younger kids in here. I try to get guys that need the experience, that I know if we make it to the playoffs or the end of season game or whatever you've got, that they're not going to be seeing those spots in those games. So let's get them in here now. So those are the three types of lineups. So offense, defense, and special teams. And I can tell you that on special teams, I don't know how many times that you have, you send the special teams out in the field, there's always somebody missing. So, this is a great thing. I just stand right on the sidelines, literally call them, one name at a time and say, let's get everybody out here. Here's what we got, and I line them all right up right there and I send them out in a line. Kick return team, I call the first row, or so we get these first 6 guys and I send them and I call the second row, and I stand on the line, I stand on the field line that the guys need to go out on. So we put the kick return team, and I believe it's on the 50. It's a little early in the morning right now, but so I stand right there and then we go back 10 yards, we go back 10 yards, whatever. So it just makes for an easy way to get them on the field. In Pop Warner, you're also allowed to use, for your conversions, you can use any lineup you want. You don't have to obey the must play rules. So this PAT a lot of times is the same as my stud roster, if you will. But there they are, and nonetheless it makes it very easy. And if you have a guy get hurt, then you can kind of put a little scratch by his name, and when you're calling your lineup, because that's the worst thing. I mean, if you've coached for any more than a couple of years, you have sent players onto the field to run a play, and they get out there. And we ran 2 plays last year in a bowl game with 10 players on offense because I let my tackle play fullback because we were doing very well, and I just thought it would be fun to do. Well, no other tackle went in. I missed it. So, I had the game card, and I just missed it. So everybody's probably done it, or it's happened to everybody, however you want to say it. But this does cut down on it quite a bit. So over in the corner here, you can put whatever you want. But, everybody's got stuff that they want to remember. For me, I like to put my blitzes over there just so, and I'm not actually calling my own blitzes this year. I've got somebody doing that just so they can enjoy the game as well. But I like to keep it there, and I kind of, if I'm looking at the situation, I may sit there and look down and think, what are we going to do here? Should we be aggressive or not be aggressive? I put down reminders of when I should use timeouts, because there are times in the game that, I look at the sheet, I'm looking for a play, and sometimes on an important conversion, and you can lose a lot. I've lost a few games on conversion, so I've got maybe a little thing there. But if there's something that you as a coach know is not your strong suit, and for me it's conversions, it's just not my bag. And I tell all my assistant coaches at the beginning of the year, come get me on conversions, because I just get all crazy. I want to run gadget plays for some reason. I don't know what my deal is. So a lot of times if we're in a really tight, important game, I may take a timeout on a conversion to make sure I get the right players in there. Maybe it was we ran for a really long ways and we scored. Maybe the kids are wiped out, and I might want to go out and water them down before we go in and try to do that conversion. So if I think, and then of course the opposing team has a big play, a lot of times I'll go out there because screaming from the sidelines, they can't hear us. So you might as well save your breath, telling them, to watch the ball and look out for the dive, and they're going to reverse. They can't hear you. Once in a blue moon, usually what happens is right as the ball snaps, they look over at you and say, "What?" So that doesn't work out too good. But at any rate, there are times I put my keys to remember when to take my timeouts, and so I just, I see these things during the game. I may not see it, but sometimes it helps me to remember to be smart. Pick a play for me. If I've got guys that pick a play, which is the reward system for us, then I make sure I've got their name in there and I scratch their names off as I get their pick a plays done. And then I have my pregame routine, so I put down the things that I want to get knocked out in pregame and make sure that I stay on it. I'm all amped up during pregame and very excited, and if I don't have a pretty clear plan, I may start having the guys hit needlessly. So this is the game card right here, and it works out pretty well, and hopefully you'll find that useful. We're going to hop back over to the presentation. So that's the play sheet right there. And scenarios, we've got that. Depth charts, we got it. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is play cards and wristbands, and specifically getting plays in and out of the game. So when you're in youth football, if you're at the 6-7 level, a lot of times you're allowed to stand on the field. So the coach is sitting out there, and I take my playbook and I print the whole thing out at that level. I take a 8x11 sheet, print out the plays. Of course, they're all in color, and the kids all have little tape on their fingers or whatever, that is their color. Or guy told me one time he uses marker on their hands. I only coached that level for 1 year, so tape was my deal, and it was a pain. But the guy says he gets all colored markers and he writes on the kids their hands. He just puts a mark on their hands. I thought that was brilliant. So but at any rate, so they have their color and they have their card, and you're gonna sit there and call that play as a what we call Mighty Mike coach. Once you start getting into a higher level or different leagues, of course, you're on the sidelines, and so a lot of coaches will have their quarterback run to the sideline at the end of each play. Okay, so here comes the quarterback, and he runs over and he runs back. Well, he probably spends about 5 to 10 seconds running both ways, and then there's the exchange between the coach, where he's taking his instruction. Of course, coach is telling him everything in the world, and then the kid runs back and does his thing. So that's not a very good system for me. I like to keep them moving. The kids are, I want them to run to the line of scrimmage. I want them to, as soon as the play's over, we have them to run back to the huddle. And from a hurry-up offense perspective, from a keeping it moving perspective, that's not the best way. There's also the running the guys in with the play program, and that's a little better because you can have a guy sit. If you got two guys that are running the plays in, you can sit there with the kid on the sideline and you can run him in. So, but the younger the guys are, the more susceptible you are to a little bit of error there. And really, if you can keep that, you can't really go no huddle when that's the only thing you have. So, and if you want to go no huddle, there are times you have to go no huddle, and you can't be preparing for that during the game. You can't say, guys, we're going to go no huddle, and here's 4 plays, because if you remember earlier in this book, we talked about the guys. You could tell them to go clean up their room. They can't make it all the way up the stairs and remember what you said. So 4 plays in a row is a really good trick, unless you've got a really disciplined team. I've had some really disciplined teams, and we still struggle with more than 2 plays in a row. 2 plays in a row seems to be about the big max there, unless there may be somebody out there who knows something I don't know, but that's fine. So what I use is the play cards, and there's 2 ways to do it. So one, and I'm just going to talk about a system I used where we actually had players with fanny packs. Now the referees, they may tell you that you're illegally equipped with these things, but as long as there's no metal, a lot of metal on the thing, like big gaudy zipper metal clips. If you get plastic clips, and I actually used the Nike hand warmers last 2 seasons ago when I had some younger guys. So what we did is the guys would have the Nike hand warmers. I actually sewed off the end of one side, and you could make this easily out of an old shirt sleeve or something. But the kids would run out with an actual play card, and they were laminated, and they were like 4x3 or whatever they were. but the flankers or whatever would run out to the huddle with a laminated small play card. We had them on a keychain a lot of times, so we could just kind of flip through them. We had 2 packs or 3 packs of these little deck of play cards, and as we were sitting on the sideline, I'd flip. So I'd flip to the 21 dive card and say 21 dive, go, say this, whatever. And so the kid would run off, run into the huddle. Quarterback would hold up the play card and show everybody in the huddle, and everybody's off and running. Now I've gotten a lot of feedback on that. Some people think that, well, that's brilliant. And again, you got to clear it with the referees before the game, because if they see it during the game and you haven't told them about it, they may not understand what's happening and they may not like it. But other coaches, and specifically what my results were that it works great, and I think it's not so bad for the starters that play offense all the time. You got kids out there that have practiced together the whole season. They can probably know what the 21 dive is and what the 48 toss is. But when you want to get a little more complex in your offensive scheme, well, every time do you run motion? A lot of guys say, well, we don't run motion because, the guys, they all jump off sides or screw it up. They don't get set. But when you have the cards, it gives them a visual reference and it secures in their mind. They know their assignment, and so they're not all freaked out. So they don't jump off sides as much. And really, when somebody gets injured is the next thing. If your guy comes out of the game, and let's say you're going to put your backup quarterback in there, he is going to be nervous. A backup quarterback going into the game, unless you just got 2 great quarterbacks, which you've been blessed, usually the second string quarterback goes in there, you're going to have a transition period. That happens at almost every level of football. For that kid to be able to have that card and hold that dang thing in his hand and look at it and see what everybody's supposed to do and be sure he knows what's going on, that takes a lot of stress out of there. Even the offensive linemen, they can see their little blocking assignments on the card and all that, and it just promotes memory, and it works very, very well. So again, the play cards, I used 4x3, I believe. I laminated the things and did the little hole punch, and I put them on a little keychain, a little tab on them or whatever. And then the guys would slide them into this little fanny pack or the little hand warmer deal, and they'd go run their play. And we'd run them on and off the field like that. That works very, very well. So we didn't have to use them last year, and the less plays you have, the less you need something like that. But still, it's still a very good system. But we just went with a wristband system last year, and I know most everybody's familiar with wristbands. I thought I pulled up a picture. Nope, I didn't. I pulled up the Magnadoodle. We'll talk about the Magnadoodle in a second here. So, but a wristband, you can just have the cards, write the play in there, use a numbering system. So you got 1 through 20 or whatever, and actually in the game management sheet, if I come over here, the plays are numbered for us. So, then you just need to devise a system for getting the number into the quarterback, whoever has the wristband. And we actually had, I think, the quarterback had a wristband, and then I had the tight end having one as well, because our tight end has a lot of blocking calls that they need to make based on the defense that they see. This was at the 9, 10, 11 level as well. So that's another good thing about being organized like this. You can have calls, and the guys have the thing, they can flip up their little charts and see their blocking assignments. Tight end would then talk with the tackle and the guard about, on the play side, because my tight end usually was on the play side, hey, what's going to happen. So, but we'd had a couple of these wrist play callers out on the field, usually 2 or 3. But anyway, if you got your plays numbered, then you're just sitting there on the sidelines. And I got a Magnadoodle, and I think I learned that from Coach Reed on the internet quite some time ago, but I really didn't start using it till maybe 2 years ago. It works great. I mean, these little gadgets that you see here on the side, these little circles or whatever, and you'll lose these things pretty quickly. But basically, you just write the number right on there. So you write 1, and you hold it up in the air, and you just let the kids sit in the huddle, and they can see it from about 50 yards away. I mean, if you use the circle and just make a great big 1, we didn't have any trouble calling plays in. So the rate at which we run plays is extremely fast. And, the guys run to the line of scrimmage, run the play. They all run back to the huddle. I just hold up the board, the kid sees it, and he calls his play, and off they go. And boy, it really works. It really works great. If you're worried about the other coaches stealing your plays, I can tell you that it didn't happen. So I've been using this thing for a couple seasons now, Nobody has stole my place. I have heard parents and coaches from the other side screaming out what they thought the play was going to be. A lot of times they were wrong, for one, which is a great benefit. A lot of times, they say revenge takes its toll on the person who seeks it. So I don't know if this is exactly the same, but a lot of times trying to instruct the kids about what you perceive as the play that's coming as a coach can really be a backfire. You tell them to do the wrong thing, and you've just got it wrong. And youth football is kind of a funny thing. I mean, they're making mistakes, and then you pick up on something that they should be doing, but they make a mistake and run the wrong play, goes for a touchdown. So it's just a weird thing. But long story short is they really don't have the capacity, unless they've specifically assigned somebody to sit there and do a Belichick and do that role of watching you calling your plays. They've got other things going on. They're watching their kids. They're trying to get all their guys in and out of the game. They're trying to deal with game situations so that at the youth football level, they don't steal it too much. In the event that they do, just use more than one number. Use 4 numbers, and then say, if it's the first quarter, use the first number or something like that, or use 2 numbers and say we're going to go with the first number, we're going to go with the second number, and you could come up with something pretty easily that would prohibit people from stealing your plays. So that's just a little bit about preparation, setting up game management sheets, using play cards and wristbands. And again, I used fanny packs to get them in there, and that makes the play calling process a lot better. And you really just want to think about, it's great if your frontline guys know the plays, and it's great if your quarterback and you have a relationship where he's a fast guy, he runs to the sidelines, it works out great, I can tell him stuff, he's real smart. Super. Kids break their legs in football, they really do, and things happen. They get sick, their mom wants them to go to bar mitzvah, who knows. Anything can happen in youth football when it comes to your players. And so what's your backup plan, coach? What's your, this is going to work for this kid in this situation, but what are you going to do for every kid in every situation? So just kind of think about that, and hopefully some of this stuff you might find useful as we go forward. All right, we're going to take a break, and we'll be back with the Getting There chapter in just a second.